Hello there, Misketeers. Welcome back to Missing Out Mondays, where we tell you what we're into. Start your week off right. I'm Tauri Jay.
I'm Lex Michael.
And this week we're joined by James Lott Jr.
That's right, kids. That's right, kids. I'm here.
James is going to be joining us on our main show tomorrow, but we thought we'd have him tell us what we're into this week. So what do you got? What do you got?
I am in love with the show, and the music of this show is just of the certain time period. Pose. Happy Pride Month, everybody. It's about to come to a close. It's about to end, the Pride Month part. But Pose came back, season 2, Ryan Murphy, FX. It is a glorious show now it's about the 90s.
Ooh.
Which they play, the whole first episodes were centered around Madonna's Vogue song. And they had they played songs by like Soul to Soul Back to Life, which is a classic song, and and Lisa and Cold Jam, all these songs that I loved back then. They're playing them, but for me to see a TV show where most of the cast is brown, Latino and black, but brown or Latino, and that half the cast is transgendered and or gay in real life. And they're playing a wide range of roles on here. It's just amazing. I can't believe the show's on the air. I just can't believe it. I just never thought I'd see something like this in my lifetime. So it's kind of amazing. And if the show is actually really good. Yeah. The writing's good. The acting's good. The situations are good. They're talking about topics that were of the day. Like right now, AIDS is really big. It was hitting. And discrimination you can get back then, which I experienced back then, that now I can't take for granted, because back then it was a little harder for brown people. I mean, it's still hard for brown people, but it was even a little harder back then. And the show is just amazing. Every week I'm just like, my mouth is just like, this is on the floor. This is so amazing. I can't believe it. So I tell people, it comes on Tuesday nights, Pose, 10 o'clock. There is some sexual situations and adult language.
Oh.
So just going to keep everybody know that. But I think it's worth checking out whether you're gay or not. I think it's worth checking out. And anybody of color, I think, should check it out, just because we're showing Hollywood. There's many options out there. There are a lot of actors out there who may not look like what you think they are that can act.
Yeah.
Give them a chance. Like, who cares? Give them a chance. If you're a good actor, you're a good actor. So it's kind of my thing.
No, it's a good show. I checked out the first season. Okay. And it's a really emotional show.
Yes, it is.
There's a moment that happens, I think, in the first, second, or third episode, where you get a really amazing dance sequence, and at the end, it like becomes a very emotional scene, and that one got me.
Oh, good. Okay,
yeah.
Good. It's all about ball culture. It's all about ball culture, which is something that was big back in the day. Paris is Burning was the actual documentary that is inspired this show. I love the documentary; changed my life. Very much about creating family out of your friends. Creating your own family.
Nice. Yeah. What about you, Lex? What are you into?
I am way late to this party, but I finally checked out The Haunting of Hill House on Netflix.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
You saw it. So I was pretty blown away by this thing. Like, when it came out, I heard, unanimously positive stuff, and it was on my list. My list is so lengthy that it does take me a while to get around to stuff, but it is a single season. They're doing a sequel that's going to come out next year, but it's an anthology series is the way they've started. It's going to be The Haunting of X or Y. I think the sequel's called Haunting of Bly Manor. It's based on a different story. But this one, single season, 10-episode story about a family who they're coming back together after a recent tragedy, and it explores their relationships, their history, their trauma, their grief, their pain, what happened to their family as a result of time spent in this house when they were younger. And I am a huge fan. It's part of what I loved about Hereditary, which was also was a movie that was released last year, very much using paranormal, supernatural elements to explore grief and trauma and pain. And so Hill House, really, first and foremost, it functions as a drama. Right. And then there are ghosts that are almost window dressing. Some of the ghosts that are in the show, you actually have to look and scan the background to see them. So it really is focused first and foremost on the characters and their relationships. And then, yes, there also happen to be ghosts that are doing ghosty things to mess with folks, as ghosts are wont to do. But it's a powerful show. It's an emotional show. It's endlessly engaging, and it's also really, really impressive. Not just in the way they structure the story, but the way they're executing the story on a technical level. So you're telling a story in 2 time periods. There's our present, where the families come back together after a tragedy, and you're also telling the story of their arrival at Hill House when they were children and what happened to drive them out of the house, what happened to their mother, and what happened to essentially traumatize them and fracture their relationships. And I'm not a huge fan of flashbacks as a device, but this is more akin to Godfather Part 2, where you have 2 directly connected stories that are happening in parallel, essentially, and you're moving from one to the other. And on top of that, you've got the technical execution. There's an episode right in the middle. I think it's episode 6, which is they're all hour-long episodes, and this episode is structured to look more or less like one long unbroken take. I think with the exception of 3 to 4 minutes of the episode, the whole thing is actually 4 long takes, and you're moving back and forth within individual takes. You're moving back and forth between settings, between a funeral home setting and the house. You're moving back and forth between time periods. Mike Flanagan, the director who directed every episode, wrote or co-wrote most of them, also did he did Oculus, he did Before I Wake, he did Hush. There's long Twitter thread that you can go find where he describes the process of executing this episode, and how obviously there's the sleight of hand of having actors jump in and out of frame. Occasionally you have to use doubles to make it seem like they're in more spaces than they could conceivably be. But insanely impressive technical execution of that episode. But the entire thing, so well written, so well directed, so well performed. It would have made my list of favorite things from last year if I had seen it when it came out. But go check it out. I dug it a whole bunch. It's been a long time since a show grabbed me so quickly, and I felt like I had to binge it within a couple of days. Real good. Go, even if you're not necessarily a horror person, if you just want really good, meaty character stuff. Great show.
Okay. I second that.
Also, and Mike Flanagan's the guy, too. He's got Dr. Sleep coming out later this year, I believe.
I just saw the trailer.
Which is the sequel to The Shining.
Yeah.
And I saw that trailer recently, too, and it broke my brain because they're actually directly pulling stuff from the Kubrick movie, which Stephen King famously does not care for. And apparently, Mike Flanagan had to go to King and persuade him to sign off on incorporating elements from Kubrick's movie. So Mike Flanagan is the dude. That's all. That's what I got. That's the end of that thought. But no, it's a great show. So check it out.
Nice. That's the haunting of Hill House.
The haunting of it's NoHo Hank, that shit.
Yes.
It's the haunting of Hill House. But it's a great show. Haunting of Hill House on Netflix.
Awesome. Speaking of Netflix, so if you are a big anime fan, you might know that Netflix recently released their dub of Neon Genesis Evangelion. And so...
Is this the one I've been hearing about where people are a little grumpy that they didn't pay for a certain piece of music?
So, well, yes. So the backstory being that it was originally localized by a company called ADV, in conjunction with the original writer, and so the dub was very specific, and it's very iconic to people who grew up. Like, Evangelion is a lot of people's first real anime that they consumed in middle school, high school. So it has a lot of nostalgia associated with it, and the original ending song was a cover of "Fly Me to the Moon." Okay. A song that, I don't know if you guys know, probably the rights are maybe expensive. Or, maybe the people who own it might don't want to sell it. That in addition to a number of other songs had to be replaced in the updated localization. So in acquiring the license to this title, Netflix wasn't able to get all of the assorted rights that were there with ADV. And I imagine who knows what the status of everything that they received was, especially since ADV went under over a decade ago. So they made the decision to create their own dub, and that allowed them to switch out whatever music that they needed. But this essentially created a lot of backlash with the fandom who, you know, they are attached to the original voice actors who understandably they're understandably upset because the original voice actors weren't asked or even auditioned.
Oh, wow.
It seemed like it was a very I don't know, fraught process in getting this dubbed. And the dub itself, though technically better because dubbing technology back then was hard. Like now we have the ability to do like monitors and we digitally record, but back then it was on like actual tape and like you only got one shot to do it.
Right.
So technically it's better. And the teams that they got are updated and things of that sort. But I think that like some of the nuance is lost in the new translation, in that some of the pronunciation is different. Some of the terminology is shifted, and those small shifts in terminology change the overall meaning in the theme. So that is mostly what has got people upset. I'm watching the original Japanese, and I like it. I haven't watched the series since I was in high school, going into college, and so I missed episodes because it was on broadcast. And now I'm also old enough to understand the themes of it, in that like Evangelion is a show that is a take on a genre, so it is like the equivalent of The Dark Knight Returns to Batman. It like takes that genre and then does a I guess an upending of all the tropes associated with it.
Okay.
And so I'm now old enough and I'm entrenched enough in the culture to understand what it's subverting. And I really like that. And I also, like, in doing a lot of research about it, found that like the original creator, he suffered from depression and at a certain point got a book written by Jung, or a book about Jung, and incorporated that into the second half of the series. And you can really, like, now that I also know who Carl Jung is, can see all the different influences of it and how his characters are affected. And it's a really, and anyone who's watched it and anyone who's like, oh my gosh, Evangelion's so good. Yes, it's really good. It's very well done. And I see all of the shows that have been influenced by it, especially with they have a 26 episode arc. Like, that's the whole series. Okay. And you can see how the structure of every anime that came after it was influenced by it. And that, like, you start with the premise and you kind of steep your individual episodes in individual tasks with a little bit of world building, and then ultimately culminate in a shift where the world building crashes into your characters, and then you go crazy from there. And that's how this structure had begun, and now you can see it in all the different anime. So it's great. I highly recommend anyone check out Evangelion on Netflix. It's available. You don't even need to torrent it like a crazy person anymore, which was a big thing.
I do remember that.
Yeah. So that's what I'm into this week. So guys, check out all these sweet recommendations.
Very interesting recommendations. All three of them very interesting. Yeah, very diverse.
That's what we're all about,
Diversity.
baby.
Diversity rules.
Hell yeah.
That's right. Oh goodness. Don't the smooth taste fool you. Yeah, exactly. Right.
But let us know what you're into. You know where to do it. Missing Outcast, MissingOutcast on Instagram and Twitter. And make sure to join us tomorrow, because James is going to be talking about Yoko Ono's 2007 mixed album.
And you're like, that's not going to do it. But if you want to talk about other people too and my music, Tune in. It's good. We talk about music and your dreams. It's about your dream, following your dreams.
That's true. What I feel like you don't have enough faith in people and their
Yoko Ono.
Yes.
I don't know about that. I don't know. But follow your dreams. You want to hear my show because it's good. It's we talk about following your dreams.
Yes, that's true. So tune in for that.
And laughing.
Yes, a lot of good bits. It's going to be so many good bits.
Like a bits. Yes, exactly.
But until tomorrow, where can people find you, James?
At James Lott Jr. on all social media platforms. Just go there, type my name, and Google me, James Lott Jr. And that's Lott with 2 T's, folks. Not 1, 2.
Hell yeah. Because he be sharing the tea.
Sharing the tea, that's right. Share the teas. Share the teas.
Lex, where can people find you?
I am on Twitter and Instagram at the Lex Michael.
Ooh, and I'm at Tauri Jay. TAURIJAY. We will see you tomorrow, guys. Bye. Until then, you missing out. Dude, don't miss out. You've been filled in. I'm bringing it back.
We'll work on it.
Dang.